Hey friends, and welcome back to Deep Dive. Today we're venturing to the furthest place the human mind has ever dreamed of reaching. But we're about to discover that the greatest challenge of this journey isn't the distance or the technology. The greatest challenge is us. When we think of a mission to Mars, our minds fill with images of giant rockets, intelligent robots, and cutting-edge tech. And for good reason. But there's another component, one that's hidden, and perhaps more complex than all of them combined, the human being. That's right, on these incredibly long journeys which could last for years, the human mind, our psychology, becomes the most sensitive and unpredictable system that needs to be managed. So, our mission today is to unpack this. What does it really take, psychologically, to send people into the depths of space? So, we're going to explore how the science of space psychology has evolved over time, from how astronauts are chosen and trained, to the unique mental and emotional challenges they face out there for so long, and of course, the brilliant ways we're learning to support them. We've dug through decades of astronaut journals from the International Space Station, analyzed simulation studies on Earth, and brought together the latest research to understand what that human factor truly means. So, if we're the unpredictable variable in this grand equation, where did agencies like NASA even begin to solve for it? How did they pick the first astronauts? Let's trace this journey. In the early days of the Mercury project, the focus was on something very specific. They were looking for what they called the right stuff. The criteria were narrow experienced test pilots under 40, in peak physical condition, and of course, short enough to fit inside those tiny capsules. And those early capsules the requirements were grueling. A bachelor's degree, graduation from test pilot school, 1,500 hours of flight time, a demanding list. And you have to remember the risks back then were astronomical. Technical failures, violent turbulence, the sheer force of launch, and the unknown effects of microgravity were just the physical side. The psychological impact of being alone, confined, the constant threat of fire, radiation, or human error, it was an endless list of dangers. But there's a lesser-known story here. At the same time, 13 female pilots passed all the same grueling physical tests. But they were part of an unofficial program and were never selected for a mission. It's a stark reminder of the thinking and the limitations of that era. So that was the beginning. What changed? When did psychology truly enter the selection process? Around 1989, things became more official. Psychological evaluations became standard. They started systematically looking at personality, intelligence, and even potential psychopathologies. Slowly, a profile of the ideal candidate began to form. Intelligent, charismatic, likable, agreeable, and definitely a team player with great communication skills. Interestingly, documents suggest that candidates with, peculiar habits or controversial political views had a lower chance. It almost sounds like they were screening for the perfect, non-controversial roommate for a 3-year trip in a tin can. But this raises a critical question. In screening for the perfect, do you screen out the brilliant but difficult person who might just save everyone in a crisis? It's a delicate balance that the selection process still grapples with. To date, NASA has selected around 360 candidates, only about 20% of whom have been women. But things are changing. The current selection round is specifically looking for women with advanced degrees in STEM fields or medicine. The goal? To land the first woman on the moon with the Artemis 3 mission in 2026. So how do they figure out who has the psychological right stuff for deep space? They use specific assessment tools, most famously a personality test that measures the big 5 traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, or its flip side, emotional stability. These 5 traits are good predictors of how someone might handle extreme isolation and confinement. But it's not just a personality test, it's a whole battery of them. Cognitive tests measuring attention, memory, and problem-solving. Behavioral assessments for teamwork and stress management. And deep psychiatric interviews to uncover any hidden issues. It's an incredibly comprehensive process. Alright, the crew is carefully chosen. Now the mission begins. We've heard about the physical toll, weakening bones, muscle loss, radiation, but what about the invisible challenges? The mental strain? This is where it gets fascinating. Imagine a mission to Mars, a journey of 2.5 to 3 years. It's prolonged, it's lonely, and the crew needs far more autonomy. Earth can't micromanage with those long communication delays. That distance, trying to comprehend being so far away that your message takes minutes or even longer to reach home, must create a profound sense of isolation. A Belgian astronaut once said something chilling. He said if you're on Mars and you can't even recognize Earth among the other stars, that feeling of being so lonely can have a devastating impact. This kind of long-term combined stress can lead to depression and even impair cognitive abilities. But against this dark backdrop, there's another phenomenon, something positive and almost spiritual that astronauts talk about: the overview effect. This is an incredibly powerful, transformative experience many astronauts report when they see Earth from space, a feeling of awe, wonder, and a deep sense of connection to humanity and nature. It's a vital coping mechanism. But here's the major problem for a Mars mission. On the way to Mars, Earth is no longer that beautiful blue marble. It's just a pale point of light, if it's visible at all. That powerful, positive psychological shield is gone. And this raises a huge question: what replaces it? How do you support a crew's psyche without that anchor? This challenge leads us to another observed phenomenon, even in Earth-based simulations: the third quarter phenomenon. It's a remarkably consistent finding. In long missions, morale, mood, and positivity take a significant dip right around the middle of the mission. It's like hitting an invisible wall in a marathon. The initial excitement has worn off, but the end is not yet in sight. It's a tough stretch. But here's the key. The analysis of astronaut journals showed that one thing remained consistently positive and even peaked during this slump: recreation and leisure. It seems that when things get tough, kicking back, relaxing, and doing something fun becomes even more vital. The journals give us an unfiltered glimpse into daily life up there. The main recurring themes were work, communication with the outside world, group interactions, that all-important leisure time, equipment problems, organizational management, sleep, and of course, food. The diaries are filled with human details. Astronauts often wrote of extreme fatigue, of feeling like they were falling behind because the workload was relentless. But even with that exhaustion, you see entries filled with high morale and genuine joy. That resilience is incredible. And getting along? Team dynamics are absolutely critical. Shared challenges, especially intense ones like spacewalks, forge powerful bonds. Group activities like watching movies together, apparently 2001, A Space Odyssey, and 2010 are crew favorites. Or playing board games with Velcro pieces so they don't float away. All build camaraderie. Interestingly, the very act of journaling seems to be a coping tool. Astronauts wrote about using it to vent my frustrations or collect my composure, a private, safe outlet. So, if Mars is the goal, how do you practice for that on Earth? This is where analog missions come in. Places like the high seas habitat in Hawaii or research stations in Antarctica or even underwater labs. They simulate aspects of space travel. And finally, what tools are being developed for the real mission? There's a lot of focus on digital mental health support, apps for monitoring mood, digitized diaries, and even specific digital tools to help manage stress or conflict. Another incredibly promising tool is virtual reality. Imagine being on Mars and missing the view of Earth. VR could create a virtual window looking back home, or generate awe-inspiring scenes of nebulae and galaxies to reignite that sense of wonder. A virtual escape hatch. The ultimate goal is to create personalized support systems that can analyze an individual's stress data and suggest coping techniques tailored specifically for them. So when we pull this all together, what does it mean for getting humans to Mars and back, mentally safe? It means the selection process has to evolve even further. It has to prioritize resilience, adaptability, and teamwork under extreme pressure. There are even proposals to look deeper into an individual's personal history, things like past trauma or divorce. It shows just how critical psychological stability is seen to be, and beyond selection, it's about empowering the crew to manage their own well-being because Earth won't always be there to help immediately. We've traced an incredible arc today, from searching for physically tough pilots to developing a sophisticated understanding of the human mind under the unique pressures of space. The next giant leap for humanity isn't just an engineering problem. It is fundamentally about understanding and supporting the human psyche in an environment unlike anything we have ever experienced. And that leaves us with one final thought. If going to Mars demands that humans learn not just to survive, but to thrive in the most extreme isolation imaginable, what can we learn from that? How might the resilient strategies and coping mechanisms developed for astronauts offer unexpected insights for our own well-being, our own sense of connection, right here on Earth? Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you found it as fascinating as we did, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Deep Dive so you don't miss our next story. We have plenty of other strange and wonderful tales on our channel you might have never heard before. Until next time, take care of that universe inside your head.